So that conversion and also, that's conversion again, conversion. All right, so at conversion, believers accept Christ's perfect life as their own by faith and experience, a spirit-led transformation of values. Both external and internal forces may provoke relapse in thoughts or conduct. All right. We'll end there. Very good. So that's the church's view. Now, who here knows what an STD is? And particularly the STD we were supposed to be looking at today is HIV. Now, who knows what's an STD? You could just see, I don't have any gifts, so you could just say it. Like, all right, what's an STD? Very good. There we go. All right. Now, so one of the biggest, most feared STDs out is HIV. Now, who can say why we generally afraid of having HIV? And by the way, interestingly enough, as I would have mentioned earlier, this is also affecting the church. Now, ever so often, somebody from somewhere decides to be unfaithful, and somebody who looks nice and rosy always has a gift for the person who's the infidel. And that gift is then taken back home to the good, faithful one. Sometimes, not all times. And then sometimes we just happen to go on our first encounter, we get swore by somebody, and jump on the wrong tree, and then it's straight death. Or at least that's what most people perceive it to be. So, knock wood, what is HIV? I'm taking it from the young people. All right? We have the bigger folks answer some questions just now. You have an next mic? Cordless? It might help. All right, yeah. One second. Elder's looking for a mic. All right. So, know that HIV is still considered a global problem, right? And in a few seconds, we'll tell you how you can get it. But it's still a global problem. Annually, we lose about... How many people are thinking AIDS in the world right now, roughly? How much? No? Yes, millions. Oh, 5 million? A little bit. No? Close. Here what happen? Next time I gotta come with gifts. So when we ask question, we give you what you will land on 1,000. You will land on 1,000. Huh? Oh, watch. See the other man giving gifts to the back there. AY is giving gifts next time. All right, no, you're close. So you say about 40, 39 million people. So we have currently about 39 million people living with AIDS. In certain populations, like Guyana was 0.1%, 1%. I was going to say zero, but like 1% of their population, which means if we have 800,000 people, we have like 8,000 people in this country with AIDS. Yeah. It sounds kind of small, right? But that's a lot of people in real life. And we were higher, we had like 1.5. We were coming down, I think we were 1.3. After COVID, we went back up a bit. So, the chances that when you see somebody looking all nice again, which I need you guys to be mindful of, doesn't mean that that person is safe. There are people who, because of treatment, are virally suppressed and you don't know, or some of them, because they're in the incubation period, look very healthy and you can't tell, and you still get caught up. So, I have patients who, to this day, haven't told their partners what's wrong with them, all right? And there's nothing we can do because the law doesn't permit you as the caregiver to tell the person or their partner that information. But the problem with that is, even though you don't know, it doesn't mean you won't get it. as time goes by, because as you learn in a few seconds, the incubation period is very long. You might hear them on gates, and you're hearing gates the last 10 years, and 10 years later, then you discover you get a thing, or you start go down. Then you discover you get catch, because it depends on the immune system. And by the way, I don't know if the good brother Falcon, you get a mic? No? Okay. Yeah, so HIV is human. Right around there. But the syndrome is when you get AIDS. Yeah, right. So the idea is that it attacks the immune system. And I'll share with you some pure facts, and then we'll just jump into symptoms and so on, which afterwards you can ask questions. So here are the facts. There's an estimated 39 million people who live with HIV, that's currently. In 2022, 630,000 people died. How much you say? 630,000 people died from HIV-related causes, and 1.3 million people acquired HIV. That's last year. 1.3 million. Again, 1.3 million persons acquired HIV. Now, and this, again, is just a wake-up call for those of us who might be wilding or planning to wild out. We need to take check, all right? So, it is estimated by 2025, 95% of all people living with HIV should have a diagnosis. One of the problems with diagnosing as well is that people generally don't want to go and get tested for AIDS. They're frightened. The main you hear said that one at it, I can't care me, I don't know. It's bare sweat. And now people get cold sweat even before they do the test. All they have to do is go and do something stupid, and then the world is dark. All right? So, it says when considering all people living with HIV, knew their status is the 76% of the person, that is, know their status, roughly. Some people would know and never tell you, and some people would have heard, perceive that they get the cause, start get sick, and still don't go test. So they kind of actually know what's going on, but it just, the fear is there. All right? And to note, there is no cure for HIV. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but coming in right now, HIV is considered a chronic disease, which means we have patients who live up to 80, 90. My oldest patient currently is about 76. And you can't tell, and her family doesn't know. Unfortunately, she's of East Indian descent. Sometimes when these things happen, you know that everybody will shun you and they want to start to move different and so on. So she's a grandmother, and to this day, nobody knows. But that's life, all right? So, quickly, as I jump down, human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, attacks the body's immune system. I mentioned that earlier. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which this young man attempted to mention earlier, is the most advanced stage of the disease. And HIV targets the body's white blood cell. By the way, how many of you are hearing about Fort Farm? Let me see. Raise your hand if you're in Fort Farm. Nobody in Fort Farm? One person. How many persons here in Fifth Farm? You can know Fifth Farm is so? All right. How many persons in Third Farm? 2. This is when the pressures really start come. All right. Third Farm. Anybody in Second Farm? They talk to you about they're yet in school? Y'all start talking about them thing, sex. No, very good, very good. You sure? So they don't do sex ed in school no more? What school you in, man? Don't answer though. Don't answer though. It's fine. All right. So, signs and symptoms. So the signs and symptoms generally are like the flu, right? Anybody knows flu symptoms? Uncle Travis has the mic. He can probably just pass it. Anybody knows the symptoms of the flu? Who? You know, I get two cheap headphones for give you. That's even stimulate people to talk. Hmm? Anybody know the signs and symptoms of the flu? Uh, what else? Yeah, give me at least three. Uh-huh. All right. You can take them three though. So throat and rash. Yeah, remind me to send the man cheap headphone. Yeah, we gotta go in now. Don't worry. Yeah. So what else? Anybody knows anything else? So the first three symptoms he mentioned there, which actually sounds like the flu, is generally what most people would get in like the early stages of HIV. You may just perceive that you have a cold, just a fever or a headache, or it's actually come out like you have full-blown flu and you ain't know what's going on, and them like, we send you to do some blood tests and nothing is showing up, it's just blank. Hey, everything normal, like, hey, all right. Okay, continue. As it progresses now, what happens if that your lymph node starts swelling? Anybody knows what is a lymph node? No, nobody in the science streaming. This young man raising his hand. All right. Wait. If you don't know what is a lymph node, could you identify at least an area where one or two lymph node is? All right, somebody jump at the back there. Hmm? All right. So, yes, we can work with that. Somebody says throat and armpit. Next. A common thing people like saying when they see losing weight is all. Yeah. So to say there's weight, there's weight loss. so, so weight loss is the next thing that comes with it, but that's not in the early stages, right? That's as it progresses to AIDS. Remember I said there's HIV, that's the early stage, and then there's AIDS. So you start progressing, and in most cases, it doesn't happen overnight. All right? Now there's also diarrhea and coughs. Without treatment, you can progress to TB, which is tuberculosis. That also causes weight loss, like sweats, fever, and coughs as well. So, but this also happens when your immune system starts to deplete. Now, up to here, anybody got any questions? Because I mean, like, this is. Arguably, that is so. For example, diabetes. By the way, last month, I think on the 14th, we observed World Diabetes Day. Um, so yes, diabetes, for example, does cause weight loss. You do get some diarrhea probably with it. There are a lot of things that stimulate it, but remember with HIV, it's a lot easier to diagnose because you just go and prick your finger, pop, come back, dark ages. All right? Or it could be it could be light ages to you too. It depends on how you see your results. But yeah, so but with other diseases, generally you have to go around, do a whole stream of thing, you run around. All right, so for diabetes too, it's kind of easy. So if you have a family history, by the way, like I said, we just call it health and you. So if you have a family history of diabetes, then one of the first things you want to do is probably check for that. Or do a random, again, rapid test, which is for your blood sugar, it's RBS. Just prick your finger and it shows this high or low or something. Similarly, for influenza, we have tests just like when you do COVID, just push your thing in your nose and say you get influenza. So most of these are kind of straightforward. But with HIV, it's kind of tricky because it's not the first thing anybody jumps to. In most cases, it's kind of the last thing we do because nobody wants to go get tested. Some people, if they actually felt that they had a risky encounter, what they would do is come and request the test. Hey, doc, I just hear this one here says DBS, blah, blah, have X, Y, Z, and we decide here open. I want to do this test, and we just take a paper and say, go and do a test. And sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't come back, kind of thing. But often, before you go do it, we always encourage you to get counseled. Yeah, if the results is positive, what will you do? If it's negative, what will you do? And so there's some amount of preparation there. And also, we need to educate you that there is treatment up front and that you won't die right away. Yeah, 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 yeah. Which is the truth. You won't die right away. It's like when you committed sin in the garden when Eve ate the fruit and the serpent said, "You shall not surely die. You shall not surely die. At least not right there and then. But you will." So the wages of sin is death. So kind of right there, you're in that vicinity. You will die, but not immediately. Yeah. To be very honest, the naps, and also a few centers where I'm working, well, not a few, only center where I'm working actually. We do share self-testing kits. I don't promote it. I don't support it for many reasons. First thing, they tell you that it's not accurate. All right? It's not like 100%. It's like a 50-50. It's a hit or miss. So you do a self-test and it's positive. It doesn't mean that you're positive. That's the problem. Because by the time then, if you do that at home and you find that, I don't know if you're going to drink Gramazone. I don't know if you're going to jump off the bridge. We know what you do. You understand? And then tomorrow you might come back and you go and do it to somewhere else and it's perfectly negative. So question is, um, it's kind of like a two-edged sword, but they're self-testing kits and they're readily available. We're going to talk a bit more about that just now. They're even promoting something bigger than self-testing kits with the now calling Lash Bag. We talk about that. Jump forward a little. Um, right, so transmission. For the other headphone that I have, by the way, they're cable, they're not wireless. I do have wireless one. Maybe I could put up too. Right. All right, so transmission. Come. Who can tell me how this is transmitted? You might need to be a bit more clear. Mm-hmm. What baby's like? Ah. All right, yeah. So, yes, that guy's right there, all right? So, it can also be transmitted during pregnancy. We kind of know why that is. But on treatment, that goes down. But the disclaimer is that it says that people cannot become infected through ordinary day-to-day contact, such as hugging, kissing, shaking hands, or sharing personal objects, food, or water. All right? And and there's a new concept that they're working on, persons on medication, as long as they're undetectable, which is the new concept we're sharing, U equals to U, undetectable equals untransmissible. All right, so there. Um, mhm. Mike, it's kind of tricky, right? It's considered because generally its origin is sexual in terms of transmission. If you get it from the road, I guess it's called accidental. Yeah, because like, if you have a cut, for example, we do a thing called, for example, needle stick injuries. If you get a needle stick, that's accidental. That's purely not anything else. So you are handling a needle. The patient, of course, is positive. The blood, for some odd reason, you pull in something, the person blood holds it in a syringe, and you push it in your hand. Then the risk of you getting it is kind of high. But then the risk is it lowers if the person is already on medication. Like I said, U equals U. If the viral load of the person or the patient is undetectable, then they can't transmit it to you anyways because the number of replicated cells in the blood is low. So we need to take 2 steps back generally and talk about human physiology. So your body has a way of committed self-suicide, at least those cells. If there's one cell in your body that's sick and all the rest of them good, that one cell must kill itself and so that the rest of the body can continue. All right? So that happens in the case of HIV as well. If you just had one single cell who was infected, it normally tries to kill itself, and then that reduces the risk of infection. But oftentimes, when the load is high, which is where the viral load story comes in, if you get 20,000 cells now, if all 20,000 cells kill off themselves, you don't see how far there. You're literally dying. And that's how we really get very, very ill sometimes. But the case we're referring to there is definitely purely accidental. And it's probably 0.00001% probability that you'll be in a bus, and that happens, and you can get it. If we were to jump forward a few steps, there are methods, for example, if you have a needle stick, we have post-exposure prophylaxis, which is PEP. We give you their medications you can take if, in the event you are accidentally exposed to someone who had HIV, whether be it via cut or you have made a mistake the night before. The important thing there is that you must know that you have 72 hours to cover yourself. 7 to 2 hours, which is 3 days. 3 days is the window period to make sure you cover yourself, get that medication, and start drinking it faithfully for the next month. That reduces the chance of getting disease by 99%, or 97%. The sooner you get it, the better. So the maths is there. All right. Any questions? Like I said, the whole aim is to promote education and prevention. So what is the first line of prevention? Prevention. In Jesus' name, yes. So all good Christians should be practicing abstinence until such time that you're married. All right? So that's our opening prevention note. Anybody can tell me any other prevention methods that we can use? All right. These young men say strap up. That is true too. Mm-hmm. Anything else? That's definitely a big plus. So that's a very good way of preventing too. However, there is a risk with that, getting tested before, because remember we spoke about the window period. So the window period is not defined clearly. It could be 3 years, in some people it could be a year. On average, let's say we can do a year. Depends on your immunity. It could be 3 years. It could be 5 years. In some people, like I said, it could be as far as 10 years. But, so I think the safest thing to do is to wrap up. Yeah. Or abstain until you find someone that you can trust, that you're willing to go the long distance with. All right? Now, also, they're saying having voluntary medical male circumcision that reduces the risk. It doesn't actually take it away completely. All right? Circumcision reduces the risk of transmission. Don't ask me why, but circumcision does. There is some study that shows that circumcised males, and maybe that's why it was good to be an Israelite. Yeah. the circumcised do have a lower risk of transmission. If you need any clarity on that, Google it. I did. Actually, I found this out one time in a barber shop. Um, yeah, so circumcision drops that significantly, all right? Remember, this is supposedly an educational session. Promote education. You, after educating yourself, should seek medical attention at all times. As much as we don't like going to physicians, me myself, I don't like go. Um, I, yeah, yeah. No, I tell the truth. So I don't like going, but every now and again I have to go and I have to get blood that day. Everybody watches me like, well, I'm with you, but yeah. Anyways, long story short, we need to go get help every now and again. We can't solve it all on our own. So if you're not sure, before you go and drink bush, and apparently a lot of these horrible things just get their own little kicks. I don't lie. I've been around bush long enough. People drink coconut water and hide malaria. Apparently coconut water even helps to hide the true results on your tests. Because there are quite a few people who we know for sure the part and they get it, they're supposed to get it, they're supposed to get it, they bring them, they carry them, they bring them, they carry them, and nothing. And then probably they're using coconut water, use coconut water. It's mine, use coconut water. Eh, Next couple of years, the way you see they suddenly drop, it is get the hardest part. Like when they suddenly start moving from them here and then boot up, and they just start going down rapidly. But I'm not saying herbs don't work. Herbs do work, and a lot of them actually, a lot of medications were built off of herbs. So, truthfully, you could do your own remedy, but still go and make sure you go and check. Yes, Sister Pat. Full, di- full disclosure, right? In medicine, they say one and one is not two, and oftentimes we don't have the answers to all the problems that life presents. Sometimes, they say the human being is a biological, psychological, social, physical human being. Long, fancy thing. Anyways, so, but we often overlook the spiritual aspect. I think I did a presentation on this sometime, somewhere. And in the definition of health, one of the concepts we overlooked was the spiritual. Now, some of the problems that we get, oftentimes doctors can't resolve because sometimes we don't know what it is. I once had a patient I was working with bitterly, and then somebody came and said, "No, what happened? I carried to church, they do deliverance, and he good." Somebody bad money, he was supposed to go and run, and they didn't want to go. No. In these cases, of course, medicine makes no sense. I won't lie. And we're Adventists. We have many stories of people who would sleep and wake up and start back walking. They couldn't walk. There was a story, I think, in the inside story of somebody who had HIV about 2 or 3 weeks back. And that person is now fully cured. So, the point I'm making here is this. Ever so often, we try to find diagnosis for issues. And then not in all instances are we capable to diagnose and or treat. Like this one says that there's no cure. But there is medication that does extend one's life. And in the case of your ear, for example, you may have gone to seek medical attention. They checked, there's nothing they can do, or they didn't find nothing. It could be just maybe the muscle that pulls the little bone, the strebe or whatever it is, misbehaving. But there's nothing you can do about that. They can test and say everything else is fine. But there's nobody measuring the strength of that single muscle, or if there's a fiber that is weak, that causing you to get that little zinging or whatever it is you might be getting. Just to give you an example. So all we do is say follow up, and if the problem persists, we'll treat it symptomatically, which is the best most persons can do. As we progress, we just give you symptomatic treatment for your issue. So you come back next time and say, "Oh, doctor's pain still there, or I still getting this thing." You say, "All right, drink this 2 tablets and go on." Because there's nothing else you could do. Literally. It makes sense I say if you do an X-ray, it makes sense I say if you do MRI, CT. Yeah. There's still nothing we can do. So ultimately, we're in that place. All right? But it still doesn't take away from the fact that you should go and get some attention, advice. If you don't think the advice is good, we don't force you to take drugs. Neither do we tell you that if you don't take it, you will die, unless you have HIV. But generally, the idea is to get professional help as far as possible. All right. So far, any other questions? No. All right. So we'll wrap up in a few seconds now. So ultimately, the aim is to let you know that we ought to take care of ourselves. The young people seem to have left the building. You ought to protect yourselves. You ought to be aware that there are dangers associated with going outside and having extramarital and premarital affairs, for want of a better word. I can see Shemaya's both hands up. What's up? I was going to say Jesus, right? But I see they say garlic help to replenish those, but truthfully, bring back, I don't know. See, body naturally does that, right? I don't know. I don't think there's a list of vitamins that does that. Just like your red blood cells die in 90 days, every 90 days there's a cycle. There's a cycle for a white blood cell, I think. Those are 120 days. So each cell in the body has an average lifespan. But the problem with those that are being attacked is that, again, the number of cells that are attacked and that are dying off is faster than your body reproduces. And so you start to deteriorate, because those are your fighter cells, and you start getting sick. So like I said, most persons with HIV and or AIDS don't actually die from HIV and AIDS. If I write the death certificate, I don't write cause of death as AIDS or HIV. In most cases, the cause of death is TB, cryptococcus, pneumonia. The smallest thing to kill you, you understand, something else. But it's never, because remember, it just weakens your immune system. So you don't actually die because you have HIV. You die because the body's defense to other, what we want to call peer thing like flu and maybe a cough and them thing suddenly drops, and you're no longer able to put up the resistance so you go down. All right? So apparently one of the only things that is not digested and it goes into your stream immediately is water. All right? Now, coconut water, as is known right now, if you have diarrhea, we send you home, we say drink coconut water. Coconut water is rich in electrolytes, so you don't need to use ORS or Pedialyte and so on. It's a good substitute if you have, or if you know somebody with diarrhea, is coconut water. Now, the actual ingredients in coconut water, I'm not sure who studied it to find all that there is, but I can surely tell you that that thing works. You understand? I can tell you that it works. I can tell you that if you're having a bad day and you're feeling kind of drained, go drink some coke. Don't want to say, well, I know saline. Just go and get some coconut water. Like I said, it bounces. No joke. So maybe in my older years, I can sit down and study why drinking coconut water somehow masks or helps in some cases to hide. Like I said, it happens the same with malaria patients. I don't know the actual reason, but you ask the people in the bush, they're going to say they drink coconut water, and maybe this is why it didn't show it when they come out and contain they had. So I'm not sure what is it, if it's the buffering effect of the electrolytes. Something there, though, definitely is causing those things not to pick up. It's probably a study worth carrying out, like I said, especially from a Guyanese Caribbean standpoint, because but to date, it's not something I think is widely studied, especially in this sphere. And our population is not that big. Like, I did a study last year on a thing, I didn't publish it, but most people don't actually look into these things. The population is not that big, and the issue is not that grave to merit people spending money to try to figure out why in one person or two or five this is working. You probably spend 10 million to study it, and or 15, I don't know how much they spend, and the findings might not even be significant enough to change anything anyway. So it's not something that I've studied, I can assure you. All right, so in terms of treatment though, there is treatment that is readily available to all. Um, if you know somebody who was diagnosed with it, they may be wasting at this point in time. Even if they weren't diagnosed, but you know their partners had it, you can encourage them to go to the nearest care and treatment site. I'm not sure if Buxton is one, I know they were working on it. And get tested, and also you can receive medications. It's normally done very discreetly. If you know somebody as well, and this is just general knowledge for the younger ones who might be wilding again, who would have gone and done something that they should not have done and feel that they're at risk, they can also go and get treatment, and that treatment, once it's within the first 72 hours of the contact, which should be generally unprotected with a high-risk person, can get medication. The church is not, or I should say, should not be in a place where there are members of the LGBTQRSYZ community, but also for those persons who perceive that they're, or you know somebody who's in that category as well, who also may be at risk for a high risk of exposure. There's medication that they can take too as well before, to make sure that they don't get it. So even before they go and do stupidness, see, they could cover themselves to make sure they don't get it. And I'm referring to HIV, so that I can clarify what it is. Once again, I will reiterate the fact that we're here to promote health and prevent disease, and as a good Seventh-day Adventist Christian, our first line of defense is abstinence and following the word of God. Now, I want to thank you all for lending me your ear, and Sister Lauren has a question before I close. No. And that's a very salient point there too. And abstinence and faithfulness. And you need to say faithfulness to one partner too, and not two and three. Because in this day and age, everything's trending. So yes. So and faithfulness to your one partner. And if you're gonna act loosely, wild, whatever you want to call it, make sure you protect yourself. All right. Once again, thank you for having me. Next time I come, hopefully I'll have a topic so I don't have to talk on HIV in the church. Um, Maybe we can talk about something else. And yeah, have a pleasant rest of the week. Before Brother Travis comes, Sister Jeanette. All right, so generally chronic cough might be indicative of tuberculosis, which we didn't talk about, but it's generally co-infection. That's what we call it. Co-infection if you have HIV, and it's often very prevalent. Um, However, to note that TB, the cough, is normally more than 2 months. It's a productive cough. It comes with night sweats. It comes with fevers. You understand? So it's just not cough. Now, there are persons who can have chronic cough because they have bronchitis. Maybe they used to smoke, they get fibrosis. I'm not sure exactly what they may have. But if you're in a home with that person, you can encourage them to go get checked. Easier is probably just ask them to go and beg somebody for x-ray. If they want beg, invest a 3,000 or 5,000, depends on if you're going Sheriff Davis or Baldwin Singh. Um, do a chest x-ray. Make sure that everything is nice and good with the chest. If something is wrong, they can seek further attention. Now, in most cases, when you finish the x-ray, somebody else knows somebody will say, watch this x-ray for me. And you just watch the x-ray and we say, I go on your way. Now, if the x-ray is shady, then they'll probably tell you you need to go see a doctor. Um, but generally, x-rays by themselves also don't constitute diagnosis. It's often good to get the story from the person. For most people living in Linden, it's dusty. If you know they're working with welding, carpentry, where they got breed beer dust whole day, and or in Linden for some other reason because it's bare bauxite and bauxite dust, then the chance of bronchitis is very high. So, but generally the only advice you can give them is to go get checked. And if you're frightened bad, wear a mask because COVID's still there. So I think it's the best piece of advice I can give right now. Any other health issues before I walk off? Because like I said, it's sexuality and health. So we weren't really trying to do the HIV thing, but no, nothing else. All right, thank you very much for having me stand in front here.
All right, thank you very much. So, what can happen, right? Is that if you guys have like any health topic that you would like to discuss in the future, you could relate such to me, and I'll relate such to the good doctor there, and we can have him come back again for a much deeper and more, I guess, fulfilling health, health talk and health experience, right? So relate any such information to me, and we can have another session in a timely manner. Thank you. All right. So with that, that brings us to the end of our AY this afternoon. In good time, so we could all go home and relax. We could close the Sabbath right here, right now. I'll ask you all to stand, and we'll sing. Uh, Now the day is over. Night is. We have a few more minutes, but we'll sing now the day is over. And I'll ask Elder Lexter to close us off in prayer. All right, hymn number 52. Could I have a comfortable note from the congregation, please? Night is drawing nigh. Shadows of the evening steal across the sky. Father, give the weary calm and sweet repose. With thy tenderest blessing, may our eyelids close. Through the long night watches, may thine angels spread their white wings above me, watching around my bed.